Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's going to have a wonderful day today. I'm going to go ahead and get started with this live. There is a reason that I started choosing to do the Project Cold Case because I know we all see these homicides on our local news and we brush them off. Maybe somebody in your area had went missing and their life was taken, or maybe they didn't. Maybe you just happened to see it on the news. But every time we tend to not want to focus on that person. Every flyer we come across, we hit like, we hit share. But do we read those flyers? Some people don't. And I'll have to admit it, first I didn't either. But the person behind the crime, or the person that is the victim of these crimes, they matter. And it seems like so often we forget them. So I don't know, just a part of me just wants to make this a priority. Hi, Hill's coming back. Thank you for joining. I was just explaining that too often we see crimes on TV, and so often so many lives are taken, and we don't really focus on who those people are. So my goal here mainly is to just let people know who these victims are. So I'll go ahead and get started. This is Charles Durden. Now, one November morning 2 years ago, Annette Durden left her St. Augustine home to receive her weekly dialysis treatment. On her way there, she saw a vehicle nearly burned to ashes. She had no idea her son's body would be found amongst that rubble. She's been grieving every day since that day. The night of that fire, some neighbors were alarmed by a loud bang on a spring street on Fred Waters Way. Two victims inside were later identified as St. Augustine residents and friends, Charles Ray Durden Sr. and Stefan Larry. Now, these deaths were ruled homicides, and police are still looking for leads. Annette, the mother of Charles, wants the community to remember the life of her only son, Juvie. If this were my son, I would feel the same way. And I think this is so important to get to know who these victims are. So he was known as an outgoing person, very funny. Juvie was kind-hearted and loved his family. Now Charles Ray Durden had a good heart. If he could help someone, he would do that. He was a loving son, a respectable son, a loving father. He loved his two boys. Now, Durden still grieves her son, and her grief is compounded by the fact that this crime has never been solved. He was everything to her. That was a great loss, in her words. This was a great loss to us to lose him, especially at this age. That was my only child. I'm still grieving. Regardless of what goes on in my life, there will always be that void. And as she leaned back against her couch, Durden recalled the terrible trauma of that day. Soon after her dialysis, a family member called her about the news of her son's death. She said in that very moment, her life shattered. She said she felt it wasn't worth living. She hoped that he would appear and she could just hold on to him, knowing that wasn't going to happen. And then the detectives arrived. The graphic account is hard to bear. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. I had to ID my baby boy all by myself. Watch them hanging the hanging of a skeleton bone and ring. That's how I identified him, she said. Consequently, she battles thoughts daily, knowing that she can no longer see him. Not only is the family blindsided, but his children have been shortaged of their father. She longs to hear his voice and to see his goofy smile. Durden said Juvie attracted a lot of friends. His gift was being able to always find good in a bad situation. Smiles, laughter, and encouragement just seemed to surround him. She had gazed up at her ceiling in her living room with a giggle. Oh, yes, she says, he was that person. He'd brighten your spirit. He'd lift your spirit. He was just that person that you just wanted to be around. Charles's first cousin grew up with him in the same household at age 16. Their mothers are twin sisters, so she viewed him as a brother, and that's kind of the bond that they had. She said they had a lot of fun growing up because he loved telling jokes and always pulled pranks. He always liked to dance and play basketball. She communicated via text. She said when she verbally speaks about it, she breaks down, and it's hard to think about when she can recount that morning that she got the call to go to St. Augustine. She was told that that car was on fire, and there were speculations that Charles was in the car. She immediately dropped the phone, started calling his phone, praying he would answer, but sadly he didn't. His cousin said that her heart is filled with anger and confusion, and because of the way he was taken, it's just so hard to grasp. They don't know what to do. Is he still what they thought? Was he still alive, or how would he handle this? That's what gives her nightmares. Now, her cousin as well left a bold message for the community, and she wrote, "To the cowards that did this, not only to my brother, who I consider brother, cousin, best friend, but his friend as well, you may not have your day in court. You may not ever get caught for what you've done, but trust and believe it when I say judgment day will come. You'll stand in front of God one day." Najuvi's mother said many friends talk about him all the time on Facebook and Instagram. That means so much to her. She wants everyone to know that anything that he I'm sorry, she wants everyone to know anything to put themselves in her shoes, especially if they have children of their own. She wants whoever did this to have a conscience and turn themselves in. Robinson said Juvie was friends with the other victim, but that man was unknown to her or the family. So she had never met this friend or whoever was in that car with him. "I just hate the way they took my child's life. They took the right for me to lay his body to rest. They took that from me. Not knowing who or why was the first and most disturbing part." If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Charles Durden or Stefan Larry, please call the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office at 904-824-8304. You can remain anonymous and possibly be eligible for a cash reward by calling Crime Stoppers at 1-888-277-TIPS. That is just so heartbreaking. My goodness, I couldn't imagine as a mom just what she's going through. It's horrible. And again, this is exactly why, we have to just not let these people be forgotten. Next, we have Mike. This is Mike Sturgurst. Mike Mike Sturgurst, Mike for short, was like a brother to this. I'm sorry, let me start over. Brittany's favorite memory of her cousin is him dyeing his hair blue and giving her a mohawk. Now, Mike for short was like a brother to her. I remember that grin. I miss his smile and laugh the most. On July 13th, 2013, Michael was shot and killed trying to defend his girlfriend from a robbery at a bus station on Harlow Street. His girlfriend worked at the Steel Pony as a bartender. Michael and his girlfriend were walking home from a party after work when they stopped at this bus stop to take a rest. An unidentified person walked up to them and demanded his girlfriend's purse. She agreed to give him the purse, but Michael attempted to fight back. He was then shot once in this action. The girlfriend was unharmed. His murder remains unsolved. As children, Michael would often jump on the trampoline and help everyone around him. He looked out for his sister, protecting her from half siblings. They would often torment her just for fun. He was known for protecting people. Now, he would always do something about anyone picking on anyone else. So he was kind of their protector. He was always kind, just like their mom. Now, Michael was a people person, always traveling with someone. He was a heavy metal lover and liked listening to his favorite bands. The Misfits was his most favorite. He was able to light up a room just by being there. That's what makes his family miss him all the more. Now, as she found out, she had collapsed when she heard the news. She didn't find out until the afternoon of the day after he had passed away. Her father didn't want to tell her. "I worked at Daly," she said. "I always wondered if I helped the killer or told him to have a good day. I'm really not sure." Every time she would see a man who matched the description of the killer, she would think that may be the man. She had to stop because she wanted that person to be found, but she couldn't find that in every person, in every customer. She misses seeing his face, she said. "I miss the brother comrade. I lost my brother. I need him back. I'll never have that." Now, he never seemed sad. Michael was always cracking up jokes, she said, but he would help anybody in need. "I knew Michael would have wanted us to just move on, and that's what we have done. Sadly, grieving this nightmare, knowing we still have to move on." My goodness, that's so heartbreaking. It doesn't give me a number that you could call. I think that if I, yeah, it doesn't get it. This can be found on Project Cold Case, but what a heartbreaking story. That's absolutely just horrible. It really is. Okay, next we have Anthony Stinson Jr. Now, this story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and the University of North Florida journalism class. What started off as a seemingly normal Saturday years ago will forever be engraved in the minds of Anthony and his family. It was May 18th, 2013, when Anthony Stinson Jr. decided to visit his grandmother. As he left her house that day around 4:30 p.m., he was shot multiple times in the back in a drive-by shooting. He was in critical condition when police arrived and they had rushed him to the hospital where he died due to his injuries. It was just weeks before his 21st birthday. To this day, the killer has not been caught. His sister Antonice described him as someone who was always laughing and smiling. You knew it was going to be a good time when he was around, she said. Now, Stinson Jr. was born June 16th of 1992, one day from his father's birthday. He was known as Ham by all of his family and friends, a nickname he had from birth. He was such a big baby. People would say he looks like a big old ham, and it stuck with him his entire life. He was described by his father as a kid who did well in school and was always helping others. He was always there to help, even his mother. They were very, very close. My fondest memories of him were when he was small. He always wanted to hang out with me. We'd wound up going places in like sporting events, movies, concerts. He would always make me feel like I was the most important person alive. Now, Stinson Jr. spent his teenage years playing varsity football at Andrew Jackson High School, something he and his dad bonded over, where he did graduate in 2010. He then continued his education at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. Some of my favorite memories were when he became older and started coaching football. Everyone loved working with him. Now, Stinson Jr. vividly remembers this horrible day he received the phone call that told him that his namesake had been shot. At first, he didn't think it was too serious until he arrived at the hospital where he saw the rest of the family and the chaplain waiting. When they said we did everything they could, his world just crumbled. He says his wife and daughter just went ballistic. It was truly the worst day of their life. As a result of this tragedy came a calling for the family and friends of Stinson Jr. and Anthony J. Stinson Jr. Association for Change was created. Now, that's a nonprofit organization set up in his honor that helps the youth of Jacksonville stay away from violence. They participate in field trips. After tutoring, they put on events to help young adults get hired, as well as many other opportunities to help the youth of the community. The association mission statement, their I'm sorry, excuse me. The association mission statement reads, we want to bring an end to this neighborhood violence by offering youth the opportunity to have a safe haven to learn to play, create a lasting connection within the community. He is the father is the executive director of this organization. He really wants to do is teach the youth how to communicate with their words rather than violence, the same kind of violence to which took his son. His words in quotes. We are always trying to put his name and association out there to let people know that we are always going to be here to help. He will forever be loved and missed. Horrible, horrible, heartbreaking. Okay, let me go over here and check chat. Hell's coming back. I hope you're still here. If so, thank you again for joining. I know it's super, super early where I am. I just couldn't sleep, and this was just on my mind. Next, we have Anthony J. Stinson. Oh, I'm sorry. I just go over this one over Anthony. Here we go. We have Bradla. Here we have Bradla Cook. This story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and the University of North Florida journalism class. It was a Wednesday, the evening of October 28th, 2015. Some families were coming home to cook meals and others were leaving for work for night shift. Now, in Bradley Cook's kitchen, there was a pan on the stove, which wasn't unusual. Around the room laid a honeybee related decor and school projects that the 61-year-old's grandchildren had gifted to her all throughout the years. But the Cedar Hills Estates house presented officers with something darker that evening. Cook had been brutally murdered in her own home. Police found her body after a caller reported a vehicle fire that evening. The vehicle's tag led police to Cook's house where they found her deceased. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office found no signs of forced entry. Now, investigators from the sheriff's office said they have considered many people of interest and that it's not typical that these cases, such as Cook's, to involve at least 10 interviews. But this one did. But today the case remains unsolved. Now, Cook's oldest child, Cheryl Martin, had been working the night shift at Flagler Hospital on Wednesday. She had gotten off a few hours earlier than usual and decided to spend the remaining hours of the night catching up on some sleep at her boyfriend's house. At 7:30 a.m., Martin woke up with her alarm and a series of phone calls from her ex-husband. She ignored 5 consecutive phone calls before finally picking up. It was then that she was told he told her that he had saw and her mother had passing, which was not a normal, or I'm sorry, I completely read that wrong. It was then that her ex-husband told her what he saw in passing her mother's home, which was not normal on the route to the child's daycare center. The whole block is taped off, he told her, and I stopped counting cop cars at 20. Martin needed more information than her ex-husband could provide. She needed confirmation. He told her to turn on the news, and she did. So she fumbled through with all the stations trying to find the news. She's hollering and screaming, trying to get someone to help me turn on the TV. Welcome, Mark. When Martin located the news channel, she saw the scene her ex-husband had described. Detectives had not yet identified Cook, but Martin had a gut feeling that was her mom. Martin immediately called the medical examiner's office and asked the person who answered to call her when her mother's body had arrived. Detectives called Martin roughly 2 hours later and asked her to meet them to verify that it was her mother. Well, her and I have matching tattoos on our legs, she says. And so they asked the description of the tattoo. And when I gave it to them, they just kind of gave me that look, nodded their head, and said, yes, that's your mom. That tattoo of a bee was one Cook had gotten years before to commemorate the birth of Martin's first child. I have all 4 of my kids' names wrapped around my leg onto my ankle, and at the top is a flower. And on the top of that flower is a bee, Martin said. She had the same bee on her leg as well. Now, Michaela is now a student at the University of Florida. She remembers the frequent visits to her grandmother's. They were neighbors for 11 years. She remembers yard sale hunting as well as listening and watching the television with her grandma on the back porch for years. To say these two were close would be an understatement. We were sitting in the back, and she was showing me photos and telling me all about her childhood, Michaela says. Those stories, I felt so close to her. Even her choice of botany as her major of University of Florida was influenced by Cook. I could always find her either outside planting in her little garden or sitting on her back porch with her bird book, looking at those birds. She definitely put all this love of science and all this love of being connected to nature because she just loved it as much as I loved her. Now, although Cook had lived in Jacksonville for over 30 years, she was born in Ohio. A series of moves, marriages, and children eventually led Cook and her family to Jacksonville. All 3 of her children remember her for something different. Martin remembers her for gardening, Brad remembers her for cooking and her love of dancing, and Cara Trimmer remembers her for having all kinds of attention to detail. I would go and I would decorate, and I'd come back and there'd be platters all over the counter, cheese platters and meat platters and fruit trays, she says. She'd just roll her eyes and be like, see, I tried to tell you. Trimmer used to speak with her mother on a daily basis, even though she was living in Italy at the time. Now, instead of those conversations, she thinks about what happened that Wednesday and how her life and her children's lives would never be the same. We adopted a kid and I'm sorry, we adopted a kid and he never had that. And we gave him an amazing grandmother. And this person selfishly ripped that from him. All the mix of finding him, we finally got him and he lost his grandma. Right where he belongs is with us, but also with her. Every day is a nightmare. Every day you wake up and pray that something came back from the lab or somebody talks or they messed up and finally someone is caught. That still hasn't happened to this day. Mark, I hope you're having a good morning. Lazy Larry, thank you for joining. Old and Bored, good morning. So here we have Chris Deviney. To the average visitor, the worn coat seems a little bit more than vintage. Orlando Magic jacket that employees Bruster's Ice Cream put on as they enter to walk in the cooler. But that simple blue and black jacket hanging on a hook near the freezer is really the heart of the shop of the corner of the Atlantic and Kernan Boulevards. It's been at the store as long as it's been open. It belonged to Chris Deviney, whose idea it was to open an ice cream shop, and now that he eventually owned and operated. Now, at that store, it's well-known jacket. Everyone knows him by that jacket. It's just their motto. And it's a memory of a young man who lost his life nearly 2 decades ago. Deviney was 27 years old when he was found dead on April 5th, 2000, in the home he was renting on South Jacksonville Beach. Now, according to Jacksonville Beach Police Department, he was shot during what appeared to be a struggle inside his home. I am, thank you, Mark. A struggle inside his home. Once inside, police had discovered pot growing equipment and marijuana plants. Now, although no one has been arrested in this murder, the case eventually led police to a drug trafficking operation in Jacksonville Beach area. Deviney's landlord was one of 4 people who were arrested in this case several years after Deviney's death, but police have said that there's no connection between any of the cases. Police also have Police have not received any new information concerning the murder case. On the day he died, Deviney was supposed to be taking care of his niece and nephew and taking them to Adventure Landing. He never showed. His mother got worried when he didn't answer his phone, so she drove to his home. By the time she got there, a friend had already found his body, and the police had taped off the area and wouldn't let her in. Thank goodness for that, said Susan, who is Deviney's older sister. Now she was at work when she got the call. Her stepfather called and said, "Chris is gone." I was like, "Chris is gone? What do you mean? Where did he go?" He repeated himself again, and from the tone in his voice, I could tell what he meant. Deviney was the youngest child in a large family that grew up in Arlington. We were known as the Brady Bunch because there were 6 of us, 3 boys and 3 girls. We were all very close, and that continued after Chris had passed. Now, after his death, the siblings that had moved away moved back to Jax, and we still live here, except for one of our sisters who now lives in Atlanta. Now, Deviney went to Bishop Kinney High School, where he graduated in 1990. He had so many friends in high school. He was such a likable guy and was on the baseball team, so he knew many people. His funeral was standing room only. Vinny stayed in the Jacksonville area after high school to take care of his mom, Celeste Murr, after she got a divorce from Deviney's father. He was such a mama's boy. He loved my dad, but he really, really loved mom. Deviney had his own fencing company, Allstate Fence and Deck, but was looking for something more. The family found this out when they discovered an application to own a Buster's ice cream in his room after he had passed on. So they decided to open one up in memory of Chris. We had no idea what we were doing, said Deviney's older brother, but we were so busy, we did it. And they continued to stay busy, which has kept the store in the top 5 of the franchise's sales. Now, Deviney's impact on the store is very evident. There's a picture memorial to Deviney hanging on the back. In the back, each new employee is shown when getting trained. The jacket Deviney owned is still hanging by the walk-in freezer where Tom put it the day that store opened. Everyone that goes in that freezer uses that jacket to this day. They don't really understand it. They don't understand the meaning or get to meet all of us as a family. But my mother, who is 78, still works there. Every year, all of our employees are invited to Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner. Once they become a part of the Bresters family, they'll understand. Tom Deviney started to speak about the day his brother passed away and just keeps shaking his head. "We're going to have to do that part some other time," he said. Tom and Chris Deviney were the 2 youngest children in the family and closest in age. We did everything together. We had a basketball hoop and played basketball in our free time. We played baseball, wrestled in the front yard. We were brothers and competitive, so yeah, we got into it a few times, but we pretty much got along well, he says. What would it mean to have Deviney's case solved? Everything. It would mean that although we know that God is our ultimate judge and jury, that while we are here in our lifetime, we still seek justice, and we hope justice will prevail for our brother, who didn't deserve to die because he trusted others who used him and didn't value his life. If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Chris Devaney, no matter how small, please contact the Jacksonville Beach Police Department at 904 270 1661. You can remain anonymous and possibly receive a cash reward up to $3,000 by calling Crime Stoppers at 1-866-845-TIPS. I'll come back over and look at chat. It is such a sad story, but they made such a positive out of a negative, and a lot of families aren't strong enough to do that. So I thought that was an amazing story to tell. Even in the darkness, we have to have a little bit of light. Hey, I hope I didn't put Linda up here. This is Glenda Dixie Trucks, and this is a bit of an older one than I usually do. Now, at the time she died, many in Jacksonville knew the name of Glenda Dixie Trucks. They might have seen her at the family's auto radio business, Auto Radio Service Incorporated on Phillips Highway. The company was started by James Trucks, her husband, and has been around since 1974. Now her son and daughter-in-law, Tara Tucks, run the business. They might have seen her singing. Now she always loved to sing. Trucks and her husband sang together in a band, so she was also an avid piano player. I was playing in a band at a restaurant that she worked at, and that's where we met, James Trucks remembers. But on Sunday, September 20th, 1987, the then 37-year-old woman was murdered and taken away from her three children, Samantha, Jason, and Sammy, and her husband, James. It was on that very day that Trucks was found shot in the head and neck in the alley of 2410 Silver Street in the Springfield area. She was lying next to the driver's side of her 1977 Delta 88 Oldsmobile. Now, according to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Trucks was found shot from behind after a witness at 10:30 p.m. heard yelling and two gunshots. Trucks' husband had no idea that she was in that area or even why she was there. I knew she had left, James said, but she didn't come home after a whole day, and that's when the police came and told me what had happened. Police found Truck's fingerprints and one partial palm print that could be confirmed to be hers. The police also found what appeared to be cocaine on her clothing. The police did not conduct interviews, but there were no specific suspects in the case. And on October 1987, the investigation was closed due to lack of evidence. Ugh. And this is the saddest part of me. Once they close this, it's so hard to get any kind of case reopened. It took me a long time to get over it, 2 or 3 years, he says. But it's when it's so sudden and you don't get to spend time with them like you would who was sick. You don't get to say goodbye. I felt pity for her in the situation she was found in, but I also felt pity for us because we loved her so much. While Truck's murder remains a mystery, there's more to her story. Now, she was more than just a murder victim. She was a mother and a wife. If Trucks were alive today, she would with no doubt be giving all of her love and affection to Jason Jr., her grandson. Jason was 10 years old growing up in Jacksonville around the Marietta neighborhood on the west side when his mother was murdered. He never really got to know her like most children would get to know their parents. Since he was so young, Jason was kept in the dark about how and why that his mother had passed away. Details were always kept from me, Jason said. Anytime it would come up, I had to leave the room. When speaking about his mom's case, Jason, now 31, said he remembers riding with his mom all around town in the area in which actually she was killed in. He remembered that people would constantly recognize her as they drove by. She knew everyone. Somebody knows something, he said. I'm convinced. Now, Truck's family have not forgotten her. Jason's wife, Tara, does what she can to keep Truck's family alive by taking her son, Jason Jr., to his grandma's grave. I never got to meet her, but I take my son to her grave and we bring flowers and keep the site neat. Now, it's hard to keep her memory alive and to let my son how she was, but I really didn't know her as well as I really wish I could have. It was Tara's idea to submit Truck's case to Project Cold Case. After seeing a story about Project Cold Case on the news, Tara submitted her mother in law's information. Truck's case was reopened by JSO in 2007 with evidence submitted for a rape kit, but the kit results came back inconclusive. Since then, the police have learned nothing new about the case. Anyone who has any information about this case, the identity or location of the suspect, is asked to please contact the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 904 630 0500, or you can email them to remain anonymous and receive a reward for up to $3,000. Please contact Crime Stoppers at 1-866-845-TIPS. Mark says, Doodle, do you think it was a robbery homicide or Glenda maybe went there for some other reason? Well, yes. Hi, Frank. Thank you for joining. Mark, I'm not sure. With her having like substance on her, I don't know if maybe she went out for like a late night, you know, I don't want to really say fix, but maybe she went out for like a late night substance and then got caught in the middle. Or if honestly, someone was just looking for an opportunity. And unfortunately, I don't know that we'll ever know that. But that's a great question. Definitely a great question. Next, we have Jillian. It was 5:39 a.m. The sun hadn't even come up yet. After a night of dancing and celebrating the birthday of a Jacksonville friend, at Jillian Barrios wanted to go home, climb into bed, and sleep before waking up to her kids. That never happened because at that moment her life came to an end. Beatrice believes someone out there knows the information that's needed to bring her killer home. Needed to bring the person who killed her friend to justice where her friend could rest. There was a witness, a passenger in Barrios' car, who saw everything that happened to her the night she died, but the passenger still refuses to talk, fearing she will be next. Jillian, or Jilly Beans, is to those that were close to her, was the type of person to give the shirt off her back if needed. She was sweet, outgoing, humble, just a sweet kind of person. She still lives in Orange Park. Her death has left a huge hole in the lives of those who knew and remembered her. Barrios' life came to a sudden halt in that early morning of October 19th, 2013. Yes, if you guys would please hit like and share, and thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. I always forget to say that. When the two women arrived at the Friends' Loving Avenue home, they came face to face with a black man who fired live shots into the car, 5 to be exact, killing Barrios and injuring the passenger. The man sped away in a red hatchback. The passenger, who police still have not named, escaped with minor injuries and was taken to Orange Park Medical Center. Now, Orange Park Police Chief Gary Goebel says in the news release issued days after the shooting that the survivor's identity was being withheld for her protection. Today, that case is still cold. Now, Barrios was born and raised in Chicago area and moved to Florida with her family when she was in middle school. She attended Orange Park High School, where she graduated in 2004, before attending Everest University, pursuing a degree in business. Hi, Aurora. Thank you for joining. But then she had dropped out of school after she had gotten married. Now, Barrios was the mother to a daughter and son, both under the age of 10 at the time of the death. Excuse me. She started work as a tax analyst in September of 2013 in Orange Park with a woman who would become her best friend, Amanda Leigh Hawana. She did a lot of things for fun. We would go out to karaoke, play pool. We'd go to Spanish clubs just so we could dance salsa, she said. We always had a little get together so that our kids could play together. Vanessa Lopez said Barrios was the type of person who never let a friend down. She would drop everything in a moment just to be by their side. She was the type of person that everyone that she saw, or anyone that got to meet her, they loved her. She never held a grudge. Barrios also didn't get in trouble or fight with people. That's what friends and family do. And that's what people don't understand. Why she was a victim. She would never start trouble and she would never argue with anyone. So why did they choose her? A beautiful Puerto Rican woman, Burritos loved to spend time with her children. On the other hand, she'd seldom turn down an invitation to go salsa dancing with friends. She had a very, very beautiful smile. A childhood friend who remembers Barrios preparing to compete in pageants as a young child. Now, her smile is the one thing I will remember about her the most, she says, and her laugh. And even at an early age, it's still unforgettable. Barrios' family still maintains a memorial page on Facebook, and they maintain a billboard in Orange Park on the corner of Blanding Boulevard and Wells Road near the Orange Park. Now they're desperately searching for answers and trying to raise awareness of cold cases such as Barrios. She didn't have a large family, but she was close to her sister and her friends. Now, her friends, even now, play an influential role, helping to look after her children. Her daughter Jaylene lives with her father, while her half brother resides with Barrios' mother and sister. They still share memories of their mother with the kids. Jaylene remembers what it was like to have her mother around and took that death so hard. But with the love from her other family, she is slowly moving on. Police are still working this case with the assistance of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Someone out there knows the answers and needs this case to be solved. Barrios was a woman who danced the night away with friends, celebrating life, loving life, only to meet the end of hers in just a matter of minutes. She left behind a trail of broken hearts and memories, feeling the need to get this case solved so she can rest in peace. If you know anything about the murder of Jillian Barrios, call the Orange Park Police Department at 904-264-5555. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers at 866-845-TIPS. With Crime Stoppers, you can remain anonymous and could be eligible for a cash reward. That is so heartbreaking. My goodness. And she's a beautiful young woman. Beautiful. Let me check chat. You guys are never rowdy this early in the morning. I'm usually not either. I hope you're having a good morning, Aurora. I don't know what time it is there, but it is 3:34 here. And Frank, I know you're always having a good time. I don't even have to ask you. But thank you guys for joining. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so next we have Carrie. Well, if I can pull her up, I think I have a lag now. Oh no. Here we go. Okay. This is Carrie Singer. Sometimes the idea of of national attention is better than the reality of national attention. The Killing Fields television show manufactured a timeline with inaccurate portrayed events while featuring Carrie's case. In the process, they re-victimized Carrie and her family in an attempt to entice and engage viewers. For more information from the impact in unethical storytelling, you would have to watch the video. Now, after 21 months, we are finally able to talk about something that's been going on behind the scenes since March of 2016. This is when we were contacted by a television production company asking if we could help them identify victims of unsolved homicides. This case has to meet some very unique and specific criteria to be considered. At the time, we only had 5 cases that matched what they were looking for, and they were looking for a 6th case that we knew was a stretch, but it was some of the criteria. It's been a long road with plenty of ups and downs, but starting on Thursday, January 4th of 2018 at 9 p.m., the Discovery Channel did air their new session of Killing Fields Murder Isle, featuring this cold case of Carrie Singer, the second victim we ever spotlighted, and the daughter of Project Cold Case victim advocate Patty Lord. Now there is an update. On 10/5 of 2017, the Isle of Wight Sheriff's Office held a press conference with new information on the murder of Carrie Singer more than 13 years ago. Utilizing new DNA type technology, investigators released a Parabon snapshot DNA composite image of the suspect in Carrie's murder. Investigations revealed, and they say they do not know, that prior to that snapshot result, the individual responsible for the murder of 28-year-old Carrie Singer, they do know he is Hispanic and a Latino male. Now, this specific type of forensic technology was a Parabon snapshot in particular, can according to their website, accurately predict the physical appearance and ancestry of an unknown person by their DNA. It can also determine kinship between DNA samples out to 6 degrees of being their relative, starting with extracted DNA or biological evidence from a case. Now, Carbon can produce a detailed snapshot report and composite profile that includes gender, eye color, skin color, hair color, face morphality, and detailed biographic ancestry. And so I'm going to go ahead. I don't think I had saved this, but I am going to save this. I should have saved this already. I'm slacking, but I will show you composite. It says, please look at the following composite to see if you can identify Carrie's killer. Remember, DNA phenotyping cannot produce age, height, weight, facial hair, or hairstyle. Actually, let me go ahead and switch that on over. That way you guys can kind of look at him as I'm speaking of it. And it's amazing how far we have really come with technology. Let me just a second, it's loading. Okay, here it is. Okay, let me start over with this so that way whenever I talk, you know who I'm talking about. It can also determine kinship between DNA samples out to 6 degrees of relativeness, starting with extracted DNA or biological evidence from a case. Arbonne can produce a detailed snapshot report and composite profile that includes gender, eye color, skin color, hair color, face morphology, and detailed biographic ancestry. Please look at the following composite to see if you can identify Carrie's killer. Remember, DNA phenotyping cannot predict age, height, weight, facial hair, or hairstyle. So the image that's represented is a scientific approximation of how that suspect may have looked at that average weight and age, 25 to 55, respectively. Oh my goodness, that's really not a lot to go on, though. It does show that, he could possibly have brown eyes, a light he's I mean, he's Hispanic. He does have freckles. It does show that he may have freckles. But all around just a horrible, sad, sad case. I mean, my God, it's just terrible. Terrible. Frank says, I seen this on 48 hours. It's oh really? Well good, good. Saw it on 48 hours. It's spot on as well. Yeah, and it's amazing how they can do that. This DNA stuff is absolutely amazing. Frank, don't wish her well, Doodle. Frank, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to wish you well again, Aurora. Thank you guys for joining. It kind of keeps me awake and it doesn't make me feel like I'm just talking to myself in a box. Frank says, yeah, Mark, it's really good. Yeah, and it can solve so many cases, but I find a lot of times that a lot of people, when you do this DNA ancestry stuff, some people are just asking them to be thrown away instead of saving them to solve other cases. Aurora's like, thank you, Doodle. Okay, so our next one is going to be Joshua. Now, this is Joshua Levi Birch. And as usual, I'm slacking here. Joshua Levi Birch, remembered as Levi by his friends and family, was only 12 years old when he was shot and killed. Oh, wait a minute. Let me reread this. Joshua Levi Birch, remembered as Levi by his friends and family, was only 12 years old when he shot and killed his first 8-point deer. Okay. It wasn't a monster, but it was a decent buck. Me being a hunter, that's decent. I mean, it's dinner. Lynn took his son hunting often, but his trip was especially memorable as Levi managed to shoot not one, but two 8-point bucks that day. Ooh. He really had a drive for deer hunting. From deer hunting in the wooded areas of central Florida to lobster diving in salty waters in the Florida Keys, the Birch family spent most of their time outdoors. Morgan Puente, Levi's older sister, shared memories of the two of them chasing each other through the woods, building forts, digging holes in the dirt, and catching lizards with their bare hands. Levi loved being outdoors so much that when Morgan tried to go inside and clean up, Levi would just stay outside. He would just continue playing. Now, according to his father, Levi was an easy kid to raise. He was full of energy, driven, and especially so easygoing. Morgan couldn't agree more with her father. Now, Levi had joyous energy that continued to whoever he was around. Levi was always joking around and making people laugh. His joyous and bright energy was contagious all the time. You just never knew what he was going to do next. September 4th, 2010 would be the last time that Levi went hunting. However, it would be the last time that he worked out at the gym or played a game of golf with his buddies. It would also be the last time his father grilled him a steak and some potatoes, the last time they sat down and ate dinner together. In the early morning of September 5th, Levi was driving on Pleasant Hill Road in Kissimmee, Florida, with two friends in his burgundy truck. Suddenly, an SUV pulled up beside them and opened fire. Our passenger was able to safely steer the truck to the gas station parking lot and call for help. Levi was transported to the Osceola Regional Medical Center, where he died a short time later. Neither of Levi's passengers were injured during that shooting. Now, investigators believe Levi's murder was a result of a road rage incident. Witnesses described a black or Hispanic man driving a black SUV, possibly a Nissan, as the suspected shooter. He was last seen heading north on Pleasant Hill Road at a high speed of raid. I know, Mark. I don't. It doesn't seem like they were up to no good. I guess just I don't know. I have no idea why. Morgan had just graduated from Florida State University and was living in Tallahassee when she received the phone call that would change her life forever. When she first answered the phone on that Sunday morning, she knew something was wrong, but she assumed that it was the news pertaining to one of her older grandparents. She was devastated to learn that it was her 24-year-old brother who had been killed. It made me realize that no matter your age or circumstance, you could be gone in the next second. Levi was in his second year at Polk State College in Lakeland working towards his associate's degree when he was killed. He hoped to one day become a game warden. Levi loved life, Lynn said. He only had 20 years, but he certainly packed a lot in those years. Since his death, the Stillwater Christian Life Center Church has raised money each year for a scholarship in Levi's name. For the past 6 years, the church would host a wild game feast where they had sold raffle tickets and donated a portion of the money to the high school students in that area. Healing is a lifelong journey, Morgan stated. I don't want his death to be in vain. I make the conscious choice to live intentionally in every moment. I'm so grateful. Even the moments that hurt, I always look for a lesson. Levi was Lynn's only son, the only one on his side of the family to carry on his name. When talking about his son's murder, Lynn expressed that it has taught him to love more people around you because no one is guaranteed tomorrow. If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Joshua Levi Birch, no matter how small you think it is, please call the Osceola County Sheriff's Office at 407-348-2222 to remain anonymous and possibly be eligible for a reward of up to $5,000. Please call the Central Florida Crime Line at 1-800-423-TIPS. Yeah, I don't even have an answer to that. It's like you just do. It's like, yeah, or drive exactly. A drive-by shooting. Why? I don't know. I really have no idea. And it's sad to think that at any moment any of us could go to our local gas station and just our lives would be over. It's sad, so sad. I mean, there's just no words for it. There's no reason, there's no suspect. It's terrible. Okay, so then we have Larry McAllister. And I think this is the last, yeah, this is the last one on here. Just after dawn on August 9th, 1995, an employee arriving for work at McAllister and Associates in Apopka, Florida, found the body of Larry McAllister, 45 years old, near his Mercedes-Benz sedan. Larry had been shot and robbed at some point during the night. He was known to work late hours, but always carried a handgun for protection. Investigators believe his killer probably hid outside that building waiting for Larry to leave. The killer shot Larry and took nearly $200 from him, as well as his 9mm semi automatic pistol. Detective used a police dog to track a scent from that parking lot to West 13th Street, where they found an undisclosed piece of evidence. Larry McAllister was a hardworking, dedicated husband, father, son, brother, and friend. He was a former Eagle Scout that juggled odd work hours in order to spend time with his young children. Now, it had been over 21 years since Larry McAllister was murdered in the parking lot of his own business, and our hope is that someone will come forward to provide answers and justice for his family. If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Larry McAllister, no matter how small you think that is, please contact the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 407-254-7000. To remain anonymous and possibly be eligible for a reward, you can submit a tip to Crime Line or call 1-800-423-TIPS. It's just horrible. It's so sad. It really is. But guys, that's the last one for tonight. I can't thank you enough for joining me. I say tonight because it's still night for me, but morning. But thank you guys so much for joining and listening to me just ramble and stutter a little bit. But guys, please, if you get anything out of this live, just live life, be kind to one another. You know, it's easy to get mad, but don't hold grudges. Just smile at a stranger. Frank, we know you will. But at the same time, just enjoy life while you have it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I can't thank you enough again for being here. God bless. And I'll probably see a lot of you after a while. All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
In a world that turns too fast, some are lost, left in the past. But we won't let silence win. We'll speak their names again. Voices rising through the dark. Every story leaves a mark. We are the ones who won't forget. The fight for truth is not done yet. We shine the light, we raise the call. For the missing, the broken, we stand tall. For justice, for healing, for